about all the different levels concerning the levels of the Malchus and Zeir Anpin, and then you have the levels of Chochmah Bina, and then you have the level of Rotzna and Tainug, and all this comes from our avoida that we are choosing in Hashem Himself. Through choosing in Hashem Himself, we are mamshich all these levels within us, and this is also part of the three things that the Eibster says about us, that we are the level of Kedusha, we're the level of holiness, and then there's the Kedusha that we have me'avisecha from your forefathers, and then in additional to that, we have also the level of Ubecha Bachar Hashem, the Bechiras Ha'atzmus. So these three things correspond to the three things in the pasuk of ושמתי, כדכד, שמשותיך, the two levels of Shemesh, Tzedakah, Marpe. We said there's a level of Shemesh Havaya, that's Zeir Anpin, Tzedakah, that's Malchus, and there's a level of Avnei Chayfetz, there is the level of Gvuleich and Avnei Chayfetz, and this is all, we said, corresponding to different things in the psukim to these different levels going up to the highest most level. So now we're going to connect this also with the idea that the bechira is not just enough that we have the Eibishter's bechira in us, and this is also something that we are boicher in Hashem, just like the pikeach, just like the wise person that goes into the king's palace and doesn't choose all types of wonderful baubles, but they choose the king himself. So this is not just enough to have the bechira in Hashem himself, which is the highest most level, but that bechira in etzem has to come down into the most lowest level. If we get to add, the ultimate perfection is lahamshech ha'ili the bechiram sheshorshe ba'atzmusi yisbarach sheyumshech gam ba'avoda b'koich sageluyim. We have to bring down that the ultimate shleimus is to bring down this choice that's rooted in the Eibishter's essence, that should come down also in our avoida in the koich sageluyim. It's not just enough that we have this great choice that we make in Hashem Himself, but we also have to bring us down into our revealed koiches adlin in our malchus until the level of malchus, like we were speaking about before, that shemshutich is the level of tzedakah, shemesh, which is the level of malchus, and so on. We went through all the spheres till in primus akeser. Who the idea behind this is the in the continuation of this in the continuation of this topic, but the way that Tzemach Tzedek speaks about this pasuk. Maybe as Tzemach Tzedek brings down Mashakos from Medrash, what it says in the Medrash. Amar Rab Levi said that harbe dvarim bara Kadosh Baruch Hu. You find that many things Hashem chose ubirur loy echad mehem. And he chose he created many things, and one of them he chose from those many things he created, as we're soon going to explain. Bara zayin yom, Hashem created 7 days. Baruch HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'Shabbos, and Hashem chose Shabbos for himself of the 7. Shenamar, as it says, that Hashem benched the 7th day and he sanctified it. The same thing, Bara Rotzos, Hashem created many lands, Ubira loy echer mehem Eretz Yisrael, and he chose one of the lands, which is Eretz Yisrael. Shenamar, as it says, Tomidei navai lekecha b'mareish sashana v'adak sashana. Constantly the eyes of Hashem, your God is in it from the beginning of the year until the end of the year. Bara Ummos, he created nations, Ubira loy echer mehem, and he chose one of the nations for himself. Who was it? Yisrael, the Jewish people. Like it says that he chose Avaya, like we had the pasuk in the earlier part of the Maimer. Ki kodesh atom avisecho b'chol b'chor Avaya. V'ki m'she Shabbos v'Eretz Yisrael hem zman u'malkim anivchorim. Since Shabbos is a part of time, so it's the chosen part of time. It's the part of time that Hashem chose. Eretz Yisrael is a location, is in geography, an area. That's the place that's chosen. Therefore, they were given to the Jewish people. That is the nation that is chosen, because it makes sense to connect the three chosen things to each other. That's why, B'chlal, we find this Inyan the Rebbe often emphasizes what the Sefer Yetzirah says, that everything goes into Olam, Shana, Nefesh. It's world, year, and person, meaning place, time, and person. So you have many things that coalesce based on that. Yom Kippur, you have the holiest place, the Kodesh HaKadoshim, holiest time of year, Yom Kippur, the holiest person of Am Yisrael goes in over there, etc. So we have the same idea over here. The Amma Nivchar is in the place that's Nivchar and gets the time of the week that's Nivchar, which is Shabbos. According to what it's known that Shabbos is the idea of Sfiras HaMalchus, that we say that Shabbos is called the Kala because Zah and Malchus are like Chosn and Kala. Bidus and Malchus are Mashpia and Makabla, like we've had also recently. So therefore, Malchus is the level of Shabbos. We've had this the whole time in Chitas, in the Tanya Chitas, where the Alter Rebbe says in the Geras HaKodesh that Eretz Yisrael in the spheres above, the Eretz Yisrael de Le'ela, that's a level of spheres HaMalchus. So again, we have the associations have very much to do with the sphere of Malchus. How they move, and so it's understood that the ultimate purpose is to draw down the choice of the Eibishter also into spheres HaMalchus, which is represented down here by Shabbos and represented down here by Eretz Yisrael. So the Bechira that Hashem has in the Yidden makes them connect with the spheres HaMalchus, with those in Yom that come from spheres HaMalchus, which is Shabbos and Eretz Yisrael. Derech Agav, we also had that Yidden have to do with spheres Malchus. Knes Yisrael is the level of Malchus, so it makes it even more understood the connection between all of them. Be it the Indian explanation, this matter, last paragraph on the page is the Pasuk, on the Pasuk that constantly the eyes of Hashem, your God is in it, meaning in Eretz Yisrael. Maybe at Samach Tzedek Bar Torah, the Samach Tzedek brings in Torah Torah, Masha Amar Hazal Mesechtes Brachos, what the Chazal said in Mesechtes Brachos, Shloisha Tzrichim Levakish Rachamim. For three things, one needs to request and daven to Hashem for mercy. In other words, we need to daven to Hashem that we should get it. Sheyavoyu, that they should come. Why do we have to daven that they should come? Why because these are three things that are like by Hashem's hand. They can only come by Hashem's permission and direction. And the Gemara goes on to say we have to ask for a melech toiv, for a good king, to have a good ruler. We have to ask for a shana toiva, to have a good year. We have to ask that the year should be a good year. V'chaloim toiv, we have to ask for a good dream. Where do we see that these are things that are in Hashem's hands? So it says melech toiv, a good king, d'chsiv, like it says, pal gemayim, like rivulets of water, leiv melech biyad avayed, the heart of a king, top of page 173, is in the hand of Hashem. Like the rivulets are directed by Hashem, so too the hearts of a king is in the hands of Hashem. So we see that this is something by Hashem's control. Shana Toiva, good year. It says constantly the eyes of Hashem, your God is in it from the beginning of the year until the end of the year. So again, we see this focus that Hashem has on the year. Meaning that this is something that has to do specifically with Hashem's involvement and attention, and we need to have specifically Hashem's attention that it should be the way it's supposed to be. Chaloim Tov, how do we see that a good dream is also something that we need to have specifically from Hashem? As it says, Vatachlimeini vechiyeni. So over here, he's translating the word tachlimeini, that it's going on the dream from the word cholon, that you made me dream and you enlivened me. Obviously, a dream that enlivens is a good dream. So, and this is something that we're saying that you, Hashem, is the one that does it. So it's necessary to ask Hashem to give us the good dream that will enliven us, invigorate us. Maybe so the Tzemach Tzedek in his Maimer brings down what is brought down in Marsha's commentary on the Gemara about this. The Lechura Kasha, seemingly it's difficult. What do you mean you're saying these three you have to ask? Because these three are in the hands of Hashem. The Vade HaKol B'Yadi Yisbarach. For sure, everything is in Hashem's control and rulership. So what's so unique about these three things? And therefore we have to daven for everything. And in many places the Chazal say that we need to have a lot of mercy and a lot of davening for Hashem. So the Marsha answers as follows. It's possible the Gimel that the three things that the Marsha says that we need to have mercy for. The Gemara says we need to have mercy for. We need to daven to Hashem for. We're talking here at the beginning of the year, that at the beginning of the year is a time when these three things specifically we need to daven for. He says, that's why enumerated amongst these things is a good year. It's not like in the middle of Purim you're going to daven for a good year. You're not going to daven for a good year on Tu B'Shvat. You're going to daven for a good year. When do we daven for a good year? At the beginning of the year. So, by association, that the good year that we're davening for is obviously at the beginning of the year. So the same thing when it talks about davening for a good king and davening for a good dream, that we're talking over here at the beginning of the year. So that's something unique and different than just davening all the time for whatever we need, because this is something specific to the beginning of the year. Why is that so? So he says, V'hainum, 4 lines from the end of the first paragraph, this is why he says it a good year, like we mentioned before. We also said that the Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year, is a time to daven for a good king. Why? Because this day is a unique day and a specific day to thank and to accept and to admit to the Eibishter, the King of Kings of Kings. That's why on Rosh Hashanah and throughout the Seres Yemei, instead of saying Hakel HaKadosh in Shemoneh Esrei, we say HaMelech HaKadosh. So we see that a good king has to do with the beginning of the year. So it seems to be the way we're learning it over here is that we're asking for a good king, not we're asking for, a good king as in a physical monarch, but it means that we're asking that goodness should become revealed from Hashem's kingship over us. And the third thing that we also ask on Rosh Hashanah is v'chaloim tov, and to have a good dream. Because it's brought down in Chazal, or I'm not sure if it's Chazal or this is the Chiddush of Marsha, that a dream that a person dreams on Rosh Hashanah, even though many times throughout the year we say dreams are a lot of times a lot of hokum and has no significance and import and value, still in all the dreams that we have on Rosh Hashanah is the most true. So that's what the Tzemach Tzedek brings down from the Marsha. Based on what we said before, that our connection with Hashem and our Bechira in Hashem, and so to Hashem's Bechira in us, has to come down in the Koichas HaGiluyim, in the revealed powers, until the lowest of our revealed powers, in the Spheres HaMalchus. We're going to connect all of these three things with Spheres HaMalchus again. Second paragraph on page 173. To explain this matter according to Chassidus, we could say, it's known, Rosh Hashanah, whose man binyan HaMalchus. Rosh Hashanah is the time when Malchus is built up. Therefore, these three things are connected to Rosh Hashanah. The building of Malchus on Rosh Hashanah is just like, again, we talk about the coronation of a king. We always talk about Rosh Hashanah is the time of the coronation, and just like a physical coronation, we are building up the king. We are making him want to be king over us. So too, according to in Chassidus, Kabbalah, philosophy, language, we need to build up Malchus. Instead of Malchus being just one point, it should have all the spheres in it. There should be Chachma and Chesed and Malchus and everything, whereas all the other spheres have that innately. On Rosh Hashanah, we have to rebuild Malchus again. So, Lepoil, Rosh Hashanah is a time when we're dealing with Malchus. And we're making Malchus, filling it up and building it up and making it completely full again. So that building up of Malchus is connected to all these three things. That's why these three things are connected to Rosh Hashanah. Melech Toiv, U'inin HaMalchus. A good king is obviously Melech. We're talking about Malchus. So the goodness, good is also indicating shlemus, perfection, completion. So you have a good king, that all the matters of kingship are there in a way that's good and full and complete. V'chein shana toivu ina malchus, so to a good year is the idea of malchus. Kimavur become makoimis, like it's explained in many places. Sheshanu malchus, at the level of year, is the idea of malchus. V'chein chaloim toiv, and the same thing, a good dream, shaykh l'sfiras ha-malchus, is also connected to the sphere of malchus. Move mebir tzemach tzedek sham, like it's understood from the explanation of tzemach tzedek over there in that maimer. Shechaloim toiv yesh loimar zeu agolus. The Tzemach Tzedek says that a good dream, we could say, is going on golus. What does that mean, a good dream about golus? It says, Shir ha-mailois b'shuv Hashem es shiva siyan, a song of ascents. When Hashem returns the returnees or captives of Tzion, we were like dreamers. Like it's explained in a different place, that the golus is like a dream. The idea of Golus has to do specifically with Spheres HaMalchus. Which sphere is the most connected with the idea of Golus? Malchus. Malchus itself experiences Golus, because we say that Malchus, it's Ragleha Yerdus Mavis, its legs, the legs of Malchus descend into Bri Yitzir Asiyah, so that is the beginning of Golus. And many things having to do with Golus reflect this as well, because Spheres HaMalchus, the level of Shechina. And we always say Shechinta Begalusa. We had this Negeres HaKodesh, but Sukkos David HaNefalas, Sukkos David HaNefalas, the idea of the Shechina and Malchus, that goes into Golus along with the Yidden. That's the Heitata, that's in Golus. So the idea of Golus has to do with Malchus as well. So the Chaloim of Golus, the dream of Golus, again has to do with Malchus. So again, the three things, Melech Toiv, Shana Toiva, and Chaloim Toiv, are all connected with Malchus. And we're asking that the level of the level of the dream, the level of Golus, for the minimal amount of time that we're going to be there in Golus, at least, that should be in a way that's good. So he says, Valpiza yesh loimer. 3 lines from the end of the second paragraph. According to this, we could say, would be ha'inyan the shloisha tzrichim rachmim, and explaining the idea that the Gemara says in Brachos that we quoted before, that 3 things we need to daven for. Shebishvil sheyeh binyan ha-malchus k'deboy. What are we davening? That on Rosh Hashanah, because that's what the Marsha said, that this is referring to Rosh Hashanah. So we're davening that on Rosh Hashanah, the building of Malchus should be appropriate. Begimla Darga Shabbat, and the 3 levels concerning Malchus, Melech Shana v'Cholim, the king, the year, and the dream. Needs to be the drawing down of the supernal compassion. That their root is in the essence of the Eibishter, the root of free choice, like we said before, that the free choice that we have in the Eibishter and the Eibishter has in us, which is only in Hashem's very essence, that needs to come down the level of Malchus. That has to manifest itself in all the things that Malchus needs in the fullest way, in a good dream, in a good year, and a good king. So the Rebbe now connects it with the time that we're in now. That's also the idea of the avoid of the month of Elul, Sheyagdama LeRosh Hashanah, B'Chodesh Tishrei. It's an introduction to Rosh Hashanah in the month of Tishrei. As it's known, Shebechodesh El Mizgalim Yud Gimel Sarachim. That Rosh Hashanah becomes revealed the 13 attributes of mercy. Shezel Bechinas Shemesh Ha'alef Milmayla Lamata. That's the first Shemesh from above to below. Shemesh Havaya, the Shemesh of Yud Kei Vav Kei Shemer Bechodesh El that shines in the month of El. In other words, we had Kadkod Shemshesayich. So we said Shemshesayich is a plural of the word Shemesh. So there's two levels of sun. We said at the beginning of the Maimer, the sun of Yud Kei Vav Kei, like Shemesh Mogen Havaya Lakim. And then we said there's another level of Shemesh, the level of Tzedakah. So the Shemesh of Havaya, so over here, he's talking about the Havaya that's responsible for Yud Gimel Sarachim. Not just the Havaya the way he was talking about at the beginning of the Maimer. That Havaya is referring to Ze'er Ampin, but the highest level of Havaya de La'elam, which is as we begin, the 13 attributes of mercy, we begin with the Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, Hashem Kel Racham Achanun. So there's the Shem Havaya, which is the Yud Gimel Sarachim that shines in the month of El. And again, Rachamim Daike. We specifically are asking for Hashem's mercy, like we were talking about the three things need to have Hashem's Rachamim. So too, the way we want to draw down from above the level of mercy and compassion, the same thing has to be drawn. We have to do in our avodah correspondingly the avodah of Rachamim. Like it's brought down by the Tzemach Tzedek in our Torah, since a good year needs to have Hashem's mercy for it to take place. Therefore, the custom is to say slichas before Rosh Hashanah in the month of Elul, that our avodah of saying slichas will awaken Hashem's compassion and mercy. It should be a good year. In a similar vein, we have another aspect of rachmim, of mercy, that we have to practice in the month of Elul to evoke Hashem's mercy. That we need an increase in tzedakah from the first day of Elul. That's the second shemesh. That's from below to above. The shemesh of tzedakah, like we said before, shemesh tzedakah marpe. So the second sun, we said that's the level of tzedakah. So we need to have, if we want to have the shemesh havaya, the first one of the two shemoshim, the two sons that we spoke about, the level of rachmim, we need to have our rachmim, that we are practicing rachmim, we are practicing mercy. That's through the second shemesh, through tzedakah. That's the level of mercy and compassion, canal, like we said before, for the malchus to be built up, we need to have the compassion from above. Hashaych is top of page 174. We can connect, we can explain the idea of rachmim and tzedakah to the building of malchus. It's because Malchus has nothing of its own. It's as we always say, that Malchus has to receive from above. Vaf became poilim shiyum shaba elya, and still in all we have the effect that should be drawn down in it a higher level, that it doesn't have on its own. Leah is being a Malchus to build up Malchus because it's totally dependent about what it receives. Therefore, this happens through giving tzedakah, because we are also giving someone that is in need and has of his own nothing. The true idea of tzedakah is that the giver does not understand why the receiver is even owed this. That the receiver has no quality that earns him this whatsoever, less than just like Malchus has nothing of its own. And still in all, the giver is merachim alav, has compassion and mercy upon him. He gives it to him wholeheartedly. This is similar to the idea of free choice. It's not at all because of a particular advantage that there is in the thing that's being chosen. That's the idea of the son of tzedakah. That the way it comes down in malchus is in a way of tzedakah, in a way of that's a charitable thing. There's no there's nothing earned over there. This is also what it says, that it heals in its wings the kivin shemalchus, since malchus, its legs descend into low levels, below kedusha, below elikus. L'chein tzarech liyos bo b'chinas marpe. You need to heal the malchus from its kaviyachol illness of dealing with things that are yesh and so on. Like through this we affect. Malchus should be the building of Malchus in the appropriate way. In such a way it should also come down the level of the year of Malchus, in the category of time, even lower, in the level of a dream, the koyal agolus that goes down in it's referring to exile, until the goals will be nullified. Just the opposite. Then instead of them being goals, it'll be their kings will be your trainers, and their mistresses will be your nursemaids. When a king will arise from the house of David, will battle the wars of Hashem and be victorious. Even the Beis Mikdash from Koimeh, he will build the Beis Mikdash in his place. He will collect the scattered Yidden, in the true and complete redemption, speedily, mamash.